The guys that I work with, and I consider the work I do Temple of Venus, I work with Venusian spirits, they're like, you all need to get laid, was basically the message. So I want to talk about this tweet around men asking to just chill at home, and this particular person saying men know who to play with, right? And so that they are the exception to such a rule. And I'm not going to comment much on this person's belief system, besides to say that when we take on these sorts of ideologies, it is a self spell, like it is a self it's an illusion you cast on yourself that then makes you susceptible for harm from men, right? This idea that you are extra specially or an exception to men's harm, I'm telling you, will put you in the place of a man harming you. But anyway, that's not the point of what I want to talk about today. I could talk about the socioeconomic conditions that are shaping our dating rituals, and why, at least in heterosexual relationships, men are seeking to just skip the dates, skip paying money, take you straight home. We had the Netflix and chill era. It is on overdrive right now. We don't even need the Netflix. But I'm actually not going to get into that because I feel like any other sociologist could give you a good commentary on that. I'm going to give you my take on this from a spiritual perspective, which is a lot of what we're doing in terms of I want to call them dating rituals and our cultures around dating, are actually socially reinforced in our relationships with each other / our friendships, so outside of the person that you are actively dating. What do I mean by that? I mean that after the day or before the day or in the pursuit of romance, you will be having conversations with friends and family in which they are asking you what's happening, and you need to be saying and signaling certain things which are about how you are being treated and respected. Sorry, I got a message. Treated and respected. And then that becomes validated by your core network, right? So they mirror that back to you. Oh, he's taking you on a date. That's great. He respects you. Oh, he's spending money on you. That's amazing. You're being valued, etc., etc. Now, so these are not just like dating rules that exist between you and the person. In some ways, they may not even be your own internal dating rules, needs, or desires. They are socially constructed and reinforced in your relationships with others. So in my work as a spiritualist, in Horizon, which is a temple space that I do really regularly, where we ask spirit questions and have conversations and do divination, one of the things that's been coming through a lot is the reclamation of our sexuality, reclaiming our bodily needs, desires, and not being breaking the involuntary celibacies that many, particularly women, have succumbed to because of not being able to find the right conditions for romance and sex. So this is something that has been coming up as a primary issue that we've been working through over the last month or so. And not just talking about, not just divining about, but taking practice on, as in me, I'm having sex now. And so many people in the community of me have kind of sent me their reports on the dates they've been having and the intimacy they're experiencing. Okay, so it's not enough just to intellectualize and to have conversations about this. We do need to take the action, and we are. Okay, so where should I go from here? So I'm going to use myself, my own experience, to demonstrate the point that our social cultural dating rituals are getting actually in the way of us getting our romance, our sex, and our intimacy needs met. And there are, of course, big exceptions to this rule. And since I'm going to speak about women in particular in this moment, there are loads of women who are enjoying an amazing sex life. Again, this is not a universal truth, but it is a truth that many people can connect with and feel like they're experiencing. So I'm going to share my own. I feel like for people who are in either spaces of self-development, trauma recovery, relational rebuilding, people who are spiritually inclined, who are seeking to develop and expand along a spiritual path, often what can happen is that you give up on sexual connection, or you give up on romance and intimacy because the need that you have is not being met, and the conditions that you have for the level of connection you want to experience, intentional, grounded, loving, respectful, deeply playful and erotic, whatever it is. When you're out engaging in the world, particularly let's say if you're on dating apps, you're just not finding people who can hold the intention with you, people who are appropriate play partners. I also think this varies from place to place, like geographically. I think, as someone who really travels, I do think that's true. I know like UK babes are really suffering. It may vary in different places, but this is by and large what I see happens. And so a lot of the women who come to me and who work with me have very dry, undernourished, neglected, erotically neglected bodies. Even if, like me, you are a person who really engages in self play and who kind of loves that physical body connection on the solo level, there it's not the same as the communion that you get with another person's body. And so a lot of the majority, I would say, of people that I work with are experiencing huge deprivations of physical touch and emotional intimacy, as well as intimate play. Sometimes I try to use euphemisms on TikTok because I think there are rules. Anyway, so as this is a widespread issue, obviously the guys that I work with, and I consider the work I do Temple of Venus, I work with Venusian spirits, they're like, you all need to get laid, was basically the message. So taking that on board, I start making a more active decision to date. And like I said, when I was in South Africa, I was like, I'm not gonna date. And then I did a little bit and I was like, woof, that was triggering. I'm not gonna do that again. I'm just gonna focus on creating and work and money and all the stuff I normally do. And I talked about that in another video. And so here I'm like, okay, like you have to commit. And I'm on my Venus line, like I said, for those of you into astrology. And in my relocation chart, that my natal Venus moves into the 5th house where Venus exalts. So this is a good time for sex and love and pleasure and play. So I start matching, I connect with someone, we're having great conversations, the energy is really, really cool. And I bring up like whether he has intentions for us to meet and date ideas, and he shares date ideas with me. Cut a very long story short, and also those of you who are on my Patreon already know the story, so I don't want to bore you with it again. But we get to this point where basically a date isn't happening. Like there are all of these like barriers, and I start to realize that also this person is not financially in a position to follow through on the ideas that he has, and so he's delaying until he gets money. But it's just like the energy is starting to basically get really tight and restricted, and I'm starting to feel like what my desire is, which is to have intimate play, is being deferred and deferred and deferred. Now we're still getting along really well, so there's a certain level of play I like to engage in, and that's going pretty well. But I end up saying to him, like, it's getting a bit hard, like, to keep waiting for this moment, or these dating rights of you taking me out and doing all of these sort of things before that happens. Of course, he doesn't really feel any of that's necessary. He's like, we can put the horse before the cart and do the date after or whatever. And I'm like, no. So I'm still putting these conditions, these kind of like, as I said, dating rituals in place. These are the things you need to do. And now the conditions I'm setting aren't arbitrary. They are culturally enforced, of course, like I said, but me desiring him to do certain things are also for me about signaling safety. It's about me feeling respected and valued. It's about protecting myself from being discarded afterwards, like things like that. I'm looking for certain behaviors that might indicate to me that I'm going to be safe in this experience. And so basically things are dragging, it's not really happening, and I start to be like, do you know what, forget it, I don't think it's going to work out. I'm going to like basically remove my desire and intention from this. Now most of you know I'm a spiritualist, right? So this has like a big impact, like this decision. My spiritual core, like my guardians, like are like, what is going on here? Like, what was available to you, like what the agenda is in terms of your bodily needs. Why have you kind of like removed your energy basically from what you were building towards in terms of connecting with this particular person? They say to me, this is a really safe person for you in terms of the things that you are seeking to experience physically. And so I'm just like, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. And so they start saying to me, the conditions, this is what they say, right? It comes up when we do our Horizon group together. We talk about this. One of the messages was that we all have these like conditions that we have set that is leading to starvation in terms of intimacy, because we feel like we're seeking ideals, or we have rituals related to, let's say, someone that you were seeking a long-term relationship with should not have the same dating rituals as someone that you want to see very casually, for example. So they're basically saying you have so many conditions set for getting your needs met that it's leading you to just have your needs completely unmet. It's leading to sickness and starvation in the body, and it's like shriveling your spirit, basically. So one of the things that they also bring up is this concept of like money. And they're like, one of the things that, you know, as a decolonizing person, you talk about a lot, is the way in our culture we value people by the money that they have. Like, and we literally assign people's value by how much money we think they have in their bank or their pocket, and how dehumanizing that is. And how, to me, it's such an aberration. Like, I think it is one of the worst. Like, it is one of the most toxic kind of energy poisons that we have in terms of how we relate to each other. So they say to me, you are reproducing this poison with this person, and actually you have triggered self-esteem wounds in them because you have made certain demands on them financially that they cannot live up to, and you have made it a barrier to connection, therefore saying that you are only worthy of connection or knowing me if you have this much money. And like, oh, I can really feel that, sorry, in the solar plexus, right? So this idea of like, this is a wound to the self-worth, this is a wound to the ego. And they did say to me, this person will be able to work through it, but you have participated in that kind of energetic injury with them. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can't argue with that. Like, that seems valid. They're also talking about, again, with someone with my education and my belief system and my kind of politics, you exist in a totally different economy to this person. You know what I mean? Like, and by virtue of where they were born, where they were in, have grown up in a recently colonized place, in an economy that was decimated, you were making demands of them. And I was like, oh, all right, spirit, I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. So, you know, my spirit team say that to me, but also in my body, I feel, I'm looking down at the deck and it's that kind of Queen of Wands, and I really do have a Queen of Wands in me. This very hungry, very primal, very passionate part of myself is like alive, and I feel like I've had like direct or consuming access to her like twice in the last couple of months. And on this particular day, I feel this intense need that is just like, I need this. Like, all this other stuff that you're putting in place, because I'd said, okay, if we're gonna go for a date, if you do come and see me, you need to buy me these sorts of things. And this part of me was like, I don't need these things. I can buy myself these things. I can take myself on this date. I can do that stuff. I want this. Okay. So it's like, it's all consuming. So I end up messaging him and I'm like, do you know what? Forget everything I said. Like, forget all that stuff. And in graphic terms, I will not say here. Just come and do what needs to be done. And then after I send it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. Like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, obviously he agrees, but I'm still like, oh my gosh, this is like really embarrassing. Anyway, fast forward the story. When I do eventually, well, not really eventually, in a pretty short period of time, I do see him. I just feel like, wow, like the wisdom of the body, in that sense, that part of me that was like, you just need this, but also the love and the protection of my guardians. Because, oh, the part I hadn't said is we were meant to meet prior to that, and I had a lot of trauma come up that day. I knew we were going to be intimate, and I was just like, it was like opening that part of me again as someone who has not been intimate in a while. It really put me in touch with like some really traumatized feelings, and I was just like awash in the swell of it. And so we didn't end up seeing each other. There was some like weird twisty like turn of events in which like it was a miscommunication. We didn't see each other, and my spirit team were basically like, we made the executive decision that you shouldn't see him because it would not have been the healing experience that you need, right? It would have led to further harm in terms of like how you were feeling traumatized in the body. This was not the right conditions for you to attempt connection. And they were really right. I would say that they were very, very, very right. And I really was not okay that day. So fast forward to the day we do meet. It's cool, we're fine. I am able to like, I lead everything, you know, I set the agenda of when we're doing what. I'm like, let's get into it. And as we're in the process, and this is not uncommon for me, as we're in the, well, sorry, before this happens, my body is like super responsive immediately. Like, as soon as he walks through the door, like, I'm ready. But I sometimes, as a survivor of assault, have a disconnection where it's like my body is like really ready to go, but I can't. I'm feeling some form of split or dissociation where I can't land, I can't come down. I can't line that up. And in my past, what has happened is it has taken sometimes months in a kind of committed or semi-committed relationship for me to get to the point of being able to engage at that level. And I remember I had a partner several years ago, and was incredibly just good and kind and patient with my body. And it took us 3 months. After 3 months, just one night, it just happened. And we had been engaging intimately in other ways. But on this particular night, I was good to go. And afterwards, I said to him, like, were you surprised? And he said to me, no, you just trust me. And I really do feel like I've had that energy of like sometimes words are spells. And I feel like there was such a power in that statement because that was it. Like, it took me that long to trust him. And once the trust was established, my body opened. And the problem with that, though, as a very sensual and as a woman who loves to engage in that way, having to have the conditions of a committed relationship or months and months and months of engagement before I can experience my body passionately and intimately is really frustrating and wounding sometimes, and can really actually lead to shutting me down. So I went through a couple of years ago, I went through a year of like deep trauma healing, like self-initiated trauma healing that did open me up and made me more able to receive intimacy on a more casual basis. But then what that was one level. Then what would happen is that doing that would unlock a trauma. So fast forwarding again, I'd met someone really well, we've never met, we don't talk on the phone, really cool guy, and I was ready. He was, really cute, did some of the dating rituals, dinner, whatever, massaged my feet, and I was like, let's do it. Basically, he was into it, I was into it. Very passionate, very tactile, really engaged with my body. But when it came to again, I'm really trying to not use I'm trying to find other words. When it came time for entry, let's say, not too long into that, I was like, you have to stop, because I could feel all of this trauma in my body, and it was coming as a bowel movement, and I was like, no, girl. And so we stopped, and he was like holding me, and I was like, I have to go home. Like, and he was like, what? Like, just stay the night. I was like, I have to go home because I'm not having explosive diarrhea, basically. And no way. So I'm like, I've got to go right now. So book an Uber, basically run out, get home in time to run to the bathroom, and that is how my body had reacted. So again, these obstacles to intimate connection were frustrating and disheartening, and it was making me feel like, in some ways, that my body was betraying me, or like I just couldn't do what my body clearly would really want to do. And then the partners who would be in the bed with me would be really confused, because they would be like, physically, it's such a yes, like, what is going on? And so I eventually just stopped. Like, I was just like, I'm just not gonna try anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, I gave up. So this is really the first time of me re-engaging after 2 years of like just stopping, just being like, it's enough, basically, I can't do this. So okay, he's here, and we are getting into it, and I start to feel every muscle in my womb, like every single muscle. And I'm like, okay, like we need to stop, because this is feeling like really intense for me. But then since then I've engaged in different kind of healing modalities. So I start giving myself a womb massage. He joins in and gives me a womb massage. This person is patient, kind, sensual, does not disengage at any point. Like, my let's stops are, all of them are fine, no resistance whatsoever. But it's also not, there's just a kind of like a intuitive wisdom he has. I'm pretty sure this person's a Pisces rising, to be honest, but the intuitive wisdom that he has, in which my let's stop is not a no to everything, and he doesn't project frustration on me about his desires, right? So he stays engaged in my body the whole time, right? Either touching me, massaging me, giving me pleasurable touch. When I massage my womb, he massages my womb with me. I'm like, okay, I need to smooth something, because I can feel like I'm having a hard time relaxing, like my body needs help relaxing. So I go. And I'm also questioning myself, and I'm like, do you really want to? Because I'm like, I can feel that I want to, but I don't really know. So I pull a couple of cards just to help me process. And the reason I give connected to myself is that you just need to follow your body. Like, your mind has really been running the show. You need to like follow the lead of your body. So I'm like, okay, let's not stop. Like, let's give it a try. So I smoke. I'm feeling buzzed and relaxed. And I return to the bedroom. And I won't go into all the details, especially because everyone on Patreon knows the details, but let's just say things improve. Things improve. And there is I just feel like this was the perfect person to carry me through the different waves of trauma that were being activated, the deeper and the more connected we were becoming, and was entirely in tune with me, without shutting down on the process, which also I have a habit of shutting down on the process, right? But because he didn't, and I really did desire it between the two of us, there was also a little bit of awkwardness around a certain the way his package was, basically. So, even that, I was like, oh, this is we're gonna have to figure this out. And he was like, okay, we'll just try different positions then, so there was just such patience and such care, which ultimately led to 3 completions. 3 very, very good completions for me. But also not even just the physical completion. It was also like the affection and the care and the compassion and the patience and the forehead kissing and the okay, I won't. So what I have told this long story of this part to say is, if I had adhered to the scripts, right, the rituals of dating. I was having conversations with my friends, and they all had obviously opinions about, no, like, he needs to do this, or la la la, or he's not following through, or he's not serious, or whatever. But I would have cheated myself out of, and actually, a new level of like healing and trauma recovery for me. It had nothing to do with this person's money, King of Pentacles, like nothing to do with what was in their pocket, and everything to do with, again, thinking Pentacles material, this person's command of the material, of the physical of the body. That is actually what I really needed. And so again, shout out to the wisdom of my own spirit that was like, I want this, I don't want the dates. Like, I want to heal in this way. I want to be able to express my sensuality in this way. So that was a great experience. I continued dating. I'm not supposed to be, I'm in my dating era, in it, so I'm not supposed to be, it's not the time for me to like commit to one person, is basically the point I'm making. So I'm still open, I'm still connecting with other people, and I end up having a really triggering interaction with someone, and it's not, they didn't really do very much, but something really triggered me. And so I'm in this feeling in my body of, I hadn't heard from this person in like a day, and I'm in this feeling of, I just really want to hear from them. I just really want to be acknowledged from them. Like, a trauma's been activated, we might want to call it anxious attachment, and I can just feel this part of me that is like screaming for this person's attention. Because I'm, connected to my body and very aware, I see what's happening, I can rationalize it, I know it's not about them. So I try to communicate with them in a reasonable way according to like the level of connection that we had. And actually they respond to me fairly quickly and with a lot of grace and understanding, which I'm not used to, actually, which is part of the reason that I shut down. I know I talk about women really just withdrawing themselves, because a lot of the experiences I've had have been horrible, just really people lacking care and compassion and intention, and just treating you as like being dismissive and treating you as like discardable and all of that. So I was bracing for more of that energy, but it didn't come. It came with compassion. So hearing from that person soothed me. I went to sleep. I woke up in the morning and I had all of that trauma open in my chest. So I was like, okay, I'm very clear that it's not to do with this person, but they have interacting with them has opened a channel in my body that has given me like a direct route to one of my deepest traumas. And I do feel quite awash in this trauma. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm stuck, like I can't, like it's open and it won't close, like a wound that won't close. I'm really, really struggling. So obviously I'm leaning on my community. I'm telling my friends, this is what's going on with me. I'm taking care of myself the best way I know how. Sorry, with some water. I'm being compassionate, but none of it is moving. None of the modalities I was using was actually touching this. So I was like, okay, I have like a knowing in myself that I need a certain kind of I need assistance. I need basically plant medicine assistance to move the stuck trauma. And it's been a while. I haven't done that. I haven't needed to do that for more than maybe 18 months. So I decide that that's going to be the sacred day that I'm going to do it. And I do. And whew, I'm a little bit speechless because I knew that I was wounded and recovering, but I had no idea to the extent, like the true nature of that pain. And what's really beautiful about being the shaman and the spiritualist and the teacher that I am is when I'm able to engage certain tours, there is so much spiritual support, both from my ancestors, but some of the gods and the guardians that kind of love and protect me and really show up for me in those moments. And boy, did they show up. So I end up experiencing a pretty altered state, and holding the energy of one of my guardians for about 5 to 6 hours, in which during that time I am remembering and seeing and knowing and exploring my body. And for the first time I get to the true root of what has caused me to be so shut down and to have these waves of trauma when I'm intimately connecting. And it is such a hard experience to come into contact with. And it's done with love and care and grace, but regardless, like seeing the root of the wound was hard for me. When I go through, I'm supported through basically certain processes in that state, which pulls pain, like literally pulls pain and trauma right out of my body. So like I said, it was really intense. This went on for about 6 hours, and the next day I was spent, like emotionally, physically spent. But because I'd had such an altered and expanded consciousness and actually gone further in terms of like my ability to conduct spiritual energies than I ever have before, I was finding it really hard to come back to the body. Queen of Pentacles. What's really interesting is I randomly pulled these 3 cards before I started talking about this. Didn't even really know what they were about. Didn't even really look at them, and now I'm doing it. I'm like, okay, it's like my little cues. So yeah, it was like coming back into this physical body, being myself again, was tougher than it's ever been. And whenever you do have that kind of altered sense and you expand consciousness into all that is, paying bills and like like doing daily life can just be a bit like, what is this? So that's normal, I think, to take a bit of a minute to be like, right, this is a very weird experience, like this experience of like what, yeah, paying bills and living. But even outside of that, I just felt so out of myself, and I had to really rely on my friendships and my music community to witness, to hold space for the trauma work that I've gone through. So even when I was in an altered state, I wasn't alone. I called in like safe and trusted other spiritualists to help me with that. And so like having their witness, having them see and know, and mirror back to me and offer me support, and offer me just so much love But even so, I was still kind of reeling in my body. And so I was like, I need to see one of the guys that I'm seeing, because I feel like I need to be like physically held. I need like physical touch in order for me to feel like the boundaries of my body, for me to come back in here again. So I did call him. He came over, we hung out for a bit. Um, and I was just struggling, like really. I would say I'm back now. I'm very present in my body again. But yesterday, the impact of being really present in my body was so much grief. So I had clients, I had actually an astrology client, and I actually had to cancel it because there is a, there's doing astrology, even though I'm doing mixed method astrology with divination, but it's very different part of my creative system than channeling a message during energy healing or divinations. And I just didn't have it. I was working on this person's session, and I started crying. I felt this like overwhelming, I just can't do this. Like I knew earlier in the day that I was quite sad and I was feeling quite moody as I was coming back into my body, but I wept yesterday. Like I really cried, and I was like, wow, it was one thing to experience that out of the body, right? And to have that knowing and to engage in the healing technologies outside of the body, but coming into the body, there is no way to bypass like the true emotional dialogue of like what I saw and what I knew, what had been done to me and what had been robbed from me, and what I now have to heal from, with full knowledge, basically. And I've done so much. I'm actually genuinely proud of myself, of the ways that I have, listened to the Queen of Wands parts of me that have carried me forward in the healing without the full knowledge of what was wrong, what had been broken. But now I have it. So I'm in, oof, I really feel that. I'm in the body, and yesterday I'm just so sad. And I don't like to let my clients down. It's just necessary, but on the whole I still don't like to I don't like to let my clients down. But I had to tell her I just can't do it. I'm sorry, we have to reschedule. And I actually go to sleep. I went to sleep pretty early. I think I was in bed by 8ish p.m. Slept. I woke up maybe once or twice, but slept straight through to the next day. And while I was sleeping, I definitely experienced like healing and alignment. I'm always grateful for the healing that I get whilst I rest. So, and I've been sleeping a lot actually since that experience, like sometimes like 12-hour blocks. There's so much sleep as I integrate and heal. And so here I am, landed in the body again, and trying to remember what I started this out with. Oh, I was talking about getting what you need, and sometimes having to break with the cultural scripts to receive what it is you need, and to understand like what is your truth. Because for me, like I said, that Queen of Wands in me was like, my truth is that I don't need the date, I don't need these things. What I need is a certain magic from a person, from a magician, from someone I can sense as a magician who can hold it, who has command of the wand, so to speak. And so this is an unfinished story for me. I'm still in the process of this level of recovery of my physical body and reclaiming. It does feel like getting pieces of myself back and being able to function fully in like the truth of my very raw sexuality. But now there are things, there's different things that are coming up for me now that I can say, like at the memory level, that I need to work through in order to engage fully. And I think that there is I'm feeling in my body still the scripts of safety are there. This idea of I need to feel safe, and what I thought I needed to feel safe before wasn't true. That was socially engineered as a belief system for me. But now in this moment I can feel that my body is indicating a different level of engagement that would signal safety for me. And so I'm being a bit vague because I'm still in the process of getting that and feeling that out and responding to what that is. But I will say that where I'm at right now, I do require care and friendship. Like that is that's part of the medicine and the magic of the physical needs at the moment. But anyway, I do hope that sharing this part of my story, for those of you who are feeling really starved of connection and of intimacy, helps you to undo any of like the conditioning and the belief system and the laws and the rituals that you put in place that are actually just blocking you from the truth of what you need. That it encourages you to come back into your body and ask yourself, not based on the social scripts and not based on what your friends and the people around you will judge you as being worthy of or not being worthy of, but really based on within myself, within the truth of who I am as a being, what are the actual conditions for intimacy for me? Like, what is it that I actually need? And how do I articulate that clearly with people or through my actions in terms of who I say yes and no to, so that I can actually be fully connected and well charged in that energy. Thank you for listening to me.